Okay, Roy Warden is my guest. And Roy, if you'll repeat that last sentence, I am recording now. I finally got something working right.
Here's the thing. The battle is now joined, and Obama has exceedingly limited powers as a president. He can drop bombs on any capital he so desires by presidential authority. He cannot keep the borders open and stop the states from filing suits in the courts and stop the states on a state-by-state basis from formulating policy dealing, not with immigration as such, but dealing with the consequences of immigration. For example, federal law, rightly so, prevents the 50 states from developing their own immigration policy, saying who can come in and who can't. That's a federally mandated process, and it should be. However, each state can decide on a state-by-state basis how they're going to deal with the problems, i.e. law enforcement, welfare benefits, employment, which is a huge thing, requiring employers to check background checks and so forth, and making it illegal to hire somebody of illegal status. That the courts have already upheld that process. And once you've done that, once you've struck the blow there, where these people no longer have an economic interest to mainstream employers, the game is over. It'll take a long time for it to sort itself out. There'll be a great deal of contention for a number of years, but the great game is essentially over. And eventually the American people, and that certainly includes the Hispanic communities, because you have to understand, the biggest consequences of open border policy has been higher crime rates in the Hispanic neighborhoods, because the illegals come into those neighborhoods and the crimes committed by them and upon them are committed in those neighborhoods. So the American Hispanic communities have even more to gain and more self-interest in the ending of this problem than the rest of America.
Do you think these Occupy Tucson would have, or have you gone to my website? Have you checked out the Cochise County event that we're trying to put together for Sheriff Deaver over there? And we'd have.
No, but I will later on today. But let me tell you this: quite likely, these Occupy Tucson people, the people that advise them, are probably going to be what I call pro-Raza or open border people. That's just the fact that they're from the left wing. And I'm trying to encourage them, don't listen to these folks. They'll lead you down a bad path. Don't get involved in immigration. Get involved in the protection of the rule of law as it applies to the borders and, frankly, as it applies to the bankers that have ripped off America. All these people are accountable under the rule of law. You just have to make it happen. So don't pick and choose. You like this, you like that. You want to support gay rights, you want to support illegals. If you go down that path, America's going to turn away from you, and you'll simply be the left-wing version of the Tea Party. You have to stand on one firm principle. The rich are ripping off the poor. The bankers are kicking people out of their homes to make profit. People are living in the street and are unemployed because of the mortgage meltdown, and it's all connected to the bankers, the fat cat brokers, Wall Street. If you stay there, you'll get support. If you divide yourself and embrace all these other causes, you will minimize yourself and you will gain no support.
One of the things that I think is happening here, and I've just put out an article on Veterans Today that went out to 800,000 subscribers. What's happening in Occupy Wall Street and possibly on these other things, I think is calculated to get the police and the people at odds with each other. Again, another divide and conquer Hegelian dialectic type thing. When the police come in and look like assholes by pepper spraying, and that was the corporate police. I understand. The people wearing the white shirts, they're pepper spraying the people. They're wearing badges, but they're hired and they're private police working with the police by the corporations. Is this, they're creating the problem, and then they by sending the police in, they're trying to divide and conquer us. We ought to be, I think we ought to be standing behind our sheriffs. Our sheriffs ought to be standing behind us, like sheriffs like Richard Mack, Sheriff Larry Deaver, Sheriff Paul Babu. Your opinion on that? of course, here in
Well,
Tucson,
let me point to.
okay, let me throw this in. Here in Tucson, we got a sheriff that backed a SWAT team that came in and killed a veteran for walking down this hallway with his gun.
Okay, let me. At some point I've got to leave pretty soon because I've got a court appointment.
Okay.
But let me be clear here. We have our local sheriff Dupnik, and as far as I've been able to see, he's not connected with those other 8 or 10 sheriffs that you talked about, Bebeau and the rest of them. Dupnik is conspicuously absent, and here's something that all these sheriffs know, and even Bebeau has said things about it from which you can infer what I'm about to tell you. They know that Dupnik is pro-Rasa, pro-open borders. They know that most of the illegals in Arizona, they've come across the Arizona border through Pima County. Pima County is right down there on the border.
Right.
They come through Pima County because Pima County is very relaxed in terms of prosecution and apprehensions and all the rest of that stuff. Pima County and Tucson City were the original jurisdictions that created open border policy so illegals could come in and work for minimum wage but do the same jobs that Americans used to do for journeyman wages. This is in the construction industry and so forth and so on. So they know that Dupnik is the problem. They've said so in so many ways, but they haven't said so directly. But that's what it is. You have a separate county, Pima County, which is separate from all the other counties that are now walking in lockstep and saying, look, we got to deal with this problem head on.
Yes, they are trying. Sheriff Richard Mack from is trying to put former Graham County Sheriff Mack, who fought the Brady bill, he's trying to organize the sheriffs, and I certainly wish him a lot of luck, and I'll support him on that. But yes, Tucson, in the article that I did, I pointed out that Tucson is the major traffic area for illegals because they know they can get away here. They know the sheriffs are not going to bother them. They know they're not going to be harassed. If you're a veteran, though, you may have difficulties. What about this? What about this divide and conquer thing? What about setting the police against? The police are to be walking with the protesters, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, here's the thing. We could spend a month, you and me, a panel with 10 other people, and we could talk nonstop for a month, and we'd just be starting to scratch the surface of all of the different issues that connect and interconnect and so forth and so on. Let me close here by saying something very clearly. Ultimately, the responsibility lies with we the people, we the American people. And until we wake up and start looking at our neighbors and the people across the street, for example, we all have this antipathy, this anger against government. Well, hell, the guy living across the street is a fireman. The guy down around the corner works for the post office. Until we understand that when we talk about the government, we're really talking about our own citizens, and we're talking about our own people, that once they get in government, they assume this incredible power of government, and they tend to become very, very repressive and very contemptuous of the public interest. Ultimately, this is a reflection upon American society. It's not an invasion from Mexico, even though Mexico has a foreign policy expressly designed around shoving people out so they can earn money and send it home. It's not an invasion from Mexico. It's the self-interest and greed of our own people, our business community, our bankers, our rich contractors, all of that. The greed of them wanting to make more money, wanting to shove an American out of a job so they can hire somebody for half the wage, wanting to make money off of the misery of Mexican poor who are willing to do anything they can to get a job. It's ultimately ourselves. It's like there's an old comic strip called Pogo, and it goes way, way back, and he's like a little alligator or lizard or something, and he stands up and he says, you know, we've met the enemy, and he is ourselves. And ultimately, that's where the problem lies. It lies with we, the American people, and the vested interests of some of our neighbors and citizens in screwing the rest of us so they can get more for themselves. whether it's an American banker, whether it's an American stockbroker, whether it's a contractor, whether it's a guy that runs a hotel and wants to get the beds made for $4.95 an hour rather than $8.95 an hour. Whatever that deal is, it's our own fellow Americans screwing us, ripping us off, acting out of greed and not out of national interest. Until we realize that and face that head on, we'll never get to the bottom of the rest of these things.
I've met the enemy, and he is us.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And it's very convenient for right-wing propagandists to point and say, well, it's the Mexican invader, it's this and that. These same right-wing people, up until 2008 here in Arizona, were totally stopping any of the Arizona initiatives to limit illegal immigration, starting with Proposition 200 in 2004, all the way through the rest of it. If you don't believe me, you go on the internet, you can check out such organizations such as Awake Arizona, run by auto magnate Jim Click, right-wing kind of guy, had Romney in town the other day, all that stuff. All these businesses and people have been totally pro-open borders. They've joined with the National Council of the Raza to stop these immigration limiting statutes and so forth that have been passed. They are for the cheap labor. They're for all of the economic benefits they can get out of that. For example, Jim Click loves to sell old beat-up cars that nobody would buy. He sells them for a higher rate of interest to illegals because these people have no other choice. They can't qualify for loans, so they put their money together and they buy all the old cars from Jim Click at twice as much than they would ordinarily have to pay. You see, he gets money out of it too. He gets his lots cleaned at night, all of those shiny cars in the clean lots. Well, they got work crews that come in at night made up of illegals. They keep the place clean, and it costs Jim Click less money to hire those folks than it does to hire a crew of American citizens or people here on green cards. You see, it's that kind of self-interest, and until people sit and focus and go after those sons of bitches, and that's what they are, they're never going to get to the root of the problem. And always, the right wing will move us away from their responsibility. They'll say it's the illegals, it's the left wing, it's the Communist Party. Yeah, that's part of it. But the real responsibility is right there in your own backyard. The rich Republicans that want cheap labor. That's the way it's always been, and that's the way it will be as long as America is divided on the basis of partisan interests, left wing versus right, conservative versus liberal, and all the rest of it.
I think you're right there, and love to talk to you some more about some ways to promote this event to get the sheriffs that are on our side out, and maybe a side benefit would be to get this sheriff out of Pima County and replace him with a sheriff that actually respects the Constitution and the people.
Well, he's not going to get voted in as long as the left wing turns out for the voting, and the right wing people basically want the cheap labor to begin with. You see, Jim Click's going to vote for Dupnik. Jim Click wants the cheap labor. The Republican establishment wants the cheap labor, and so they're going to vote for the Dupnik when Dupnik comes up for election, along with the left-wing people. You have to understand the fundamental self-interest in this community of the rich exploiting the poor, which is what we started talking about earlier when we started this conversation. Ultimately, that's where it is, and that's why Dupnik is where he is, and he will remain where he is, because he satisfies the needs of both Republicans and Democrats on these basic issues.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What
you understand why they don't give me interviews.
That's right.
Now you understand why they call me a racist and they don't give me interviews, because they don't want people reading this kind of stuff.
Well, that's why they tried to kill me. That's why they tried to stop the Free American. That's why they I'm barred in libraries, because I let people like you talk.
Well,
you know,
here I am, and I got to go to court. I got to get ready for court now, and I appreciate talking to you, sir. Maybe we can talk sometime in the future.
All right. You can give me a call anytime. I'll meet you for coffee. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're right here.
That sounds good. Are you here in Tucson?
Yes, sir, I am. I'm right off of Grant.
Well, then I'd like to find a way to meet you. I'm taking the bus these days, so we'll communicate via email, and let's get together for coffee.
All you got to do, tell me a time and where your coffee shop is. I'll be there. I got a Harley. I don't ride the
I
bus.
will do that, okay?
Okay.
You take care.
All right, Roy. Bye-bye. All right. Well, this computer just screwed up here royally here. And I don't know what happened. Just overloaded, I guess. But computer tech's coming in today. Let's see what we got here. Okay, we got 3 minutes left. Folks, you know, go to freeamerican.com, get a order a book, the fiction series or Mystery Babylon, which give you the whole history of the Rothschild, the drug smuggling, and take you all the way back to the money changers in the temple and the eighth beast being formed now. Check it out. $20, you get a PDF file, and then you can decide if you want a hard copy signed. I'm Clay Douglas, and I'm out of here. Yeah, I cut it off a couple of minutes early. Hello.
Hello, this is Ann.
Hi, Ann.
I was listening to the program with your guest just now.
Yeah?
I think, here's what I thought. You know, she seems to have an answer to the question, how do we fight evil without becoming evil ourselves?
Yeah, that's why I'm on a meeting for coffee here sometime.
That's good. I'm glad. That was a good program. I appreciate hearing all that stuff because, you know, he made sense.
Yeah, and he's right. I mean, he probably elucidated it better than I do about the, you know, the difference between the right and left. I mean, it's divide. I've always said it's divide and conquer, and I think he kind of confirmed that.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, I just thought I'd make that comment, and see, I'm glad you're still going at it, and you hang in there, huh? I'm learning. I'm not having any financial worries now because I turned those over to God.
Well,
and it's a possibility, you know. If things worry you, you know, we'll turn it over to God and see what happens. You know, just it couldn't hurt trying.
Yep. All right, dear. Thank you very much.
Okie doke.
Thanks for
God bless
listening.
you, and thanks for the good program today.
Thank you, dear.
All righty.
We'll have Donna Taylor on Monday.
Okie doke. Well, I'll probably I try to listen, but sometimes I have to do some things and I miss it. But anyway, thanks a lot, and God bless you, and I'll be talking to you. Okay.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
I'm going to here. I can't see. Nothing's working. I'm going to reboot, see if I can get everything working again. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.